Okay, good evening, everybody. Camera's a bit out of focus, so let's see if I can get it back in. Maybe not. Sorry there. It looks like I'm doing a high five, but I can't quite get my camera in focus. Anyway, we will just persevere without that, and maybe it will come back into focus at some stage. Hope everyone's okay. Hope everyone is good. What are we into now? Well, it's the second full week, but third week of January 2025 already. And yeah, Bitcoin, crypto, depending on where you are and what you're sitting in. I mean, I think that thumbnail was true yesterday. I was dreading opening my Delta portfolio app to update all the buys and sells over the Christmas period. I did strike up the courage to do it today, so we do have a sort of a more accurate position of where the portfolio is, but not necessarily raging because the price drops. We can expect the price drop, and we'll talk about how big a price drop this was a little bit later on. But we were supposed to be well on our way by now, weren't we? The bull season should have been here. We should be flying. Why are we having these dips? Why are we yo-yoing between 100,000 and 90,000 for the last few weeks? This isn't part of the plan, surely. And so what can we do about it? We're going to have a look at that. We're going to have a look at some other things as well. Try not to take too much of your time this evening. There are a couple of questions already been sent through, but if you do have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll pick them up as and when we run through. There's a little poll running as well, which what do you agree with? Which camp, I suppose, would you sit in? We are going to have an alt season, just like every other cycle. 4-year cycle will continue. Bitcoin dominance will fall off and altcoins will blossom. Or this time is actually different. The ETFs, institutional investments, they're only interested in BTC, which means that BTC dominance is either going to remain stable or continue to climb throughout the cycle, and therefore not really leading to an alt season. Feel free to answer that. We'll close the poll a little bit later on, and when we do, I'll sort of give my reasoning as to why I've asked that this time. There is some method in the madness there, but please do chap on. But let's just quickly go through some news, and it can't be you're not going to see that because I need to do this. So here we are on the standard charts at the moment, and this is the range that I've been talking about with BTC. 3 days, daily time frame here, but we have just been chopping through, and I think that's fairly evident. And while yesterday's drop did feel pretty painful, getting down almost to 88,000, just look at that candle. It was bought back up aggressively, which is what we want to see when we are at the bottom of this range. No guarantee of how long the range will continue, but it does seem to be a strong sense of defense at the 90k level. And that has continued to run through. The only thing that I would say, and this isn't necessarily TA, as it is just freehand art, but I tell you what, we do this, we do a little bit here. We don't know how it's going to end yet, but I don't like that right now, because if we did have that, we'd just say it's a classic Bart Simpson pattern. Hopefully that won't be the case, and we're just ranging right now. We'll have a look in a bit more detail, but that's the story for Bitcoin. And what I would say is, since we dropped below 90,000 yesterday, the bounce has been strong. Most altcoins have followed in that favor, but for Bitcoin itself, I think it's performed very well over the last sort of 12, 18 hours. Big news data tomorrow with CPI. I mean, we've got CPI for the UK, but who really cares about the UK economy at the moment? It's apparently in the toilet. We've also got it for the United States, and that's going to lead on to the FOMC, which is next week. Also next week with the news is the inauguration of Donald Trump. So plenty of news events that may help drive the markets in one way or another, which again we'll talk about later, and they're obviously going to have an impact on Bitcoin. Some of the other ones, Bitcoin dominance, I've moved this one on. I think this is more relevant than me having near token, so we'll keep this one on from now on. But we can kind of see we had that huge drop down beginning of December where we thought we were having another alt season. That's now being recovered, and I would argue at the moment maybe the signs of some sort of W formation there, and for this to climb back up. And so, going back to that question that was asked, hi there, Sarah, what cycle is it that we are really looking at here? Previous cycles, maybe Bitcoin shouldn't have turned yet, but it's going to get close to. But what we don't want to really be seeing is strength going back in and up to that 62k, and it taking a long time about it. Q1, we really want to be seeing this switch, this break of structure for BTC dominance. So definitely something to keep an eye on at the moment. What I would say is this sort of 58.5 level here. That's not a very good line. Let's just do it with a trend line, shall we? That was also not a good place for it. But either here or here, depending on how you want to do it, we are kind of running into potentially, not price action because it's percentage, but an area of resistance. So really want to see how Bitcoin performs over the next, I don't know, 5 or 6 candles to get through. This is the 3-day time frame. Just bear that one in mind. We got total 3. Again, total 3 not looking too bad at the moment. We've still got, we've had those big moves up. That's not what I wanted to do. What is wrong with my, we've had that, move up, another one there. Could then be a double top, and that sort of reflects on the Bitcoin dominant side of things. But again, instead of talking about resistance, we've got this level of support, which is, it's been sitting at, and it's been fighting that sort of 900 billion to 920, 30 billion sort of level. And whilst we have been down there, we have bounced from that. It's going to get weaker the more it hits, so maybe we actually ultimately lose it. And if we do, that huge run up we had with the Trump pump could really see us melting away there. But we'll get into that kind of stuff a little bit later on. And then something I want to talk about in a bit more detail towards it, not just BitTensor price action, but what's actually going on with BitTensor. Because as I mentioned, most altcoins actually did quite well over the last 18 hours following Bitcoin's pump. BitTensor is not one of those. Really is struggling to gain some momentum at the moment. I've been doing a little, and it is only a little bit of research, just trying to understand what people perceive as the flaws in BitTensor, and also where D-Tau, dynamic Tau, is going to come in. Is that going to be the savior that we hope it's going to be? Or does it have some issues as well? So we'll kind of go through those very, very light touch, high level on that, because I'm no expert on it, and that kind of stuff normally goes straight over my head. But even from the price action, that white trend line that you see there, that runs all the way back to its inception. It's a strong trend line. We've lost that. We butted up against it. 3-day time frame here, so 2 candles worth. Last 6 days, butted up against it, lost it still. And that sort of 410 to 400 level that we're at, from a horizontal price support is very key. Some people have pointed out head and shoulders, which doesn't look so much on the 3-day, but that's the left, that's the head, that's the right. Neckline, we've kind of broken it. Are we going to go down further? There's certainly things to look at from that point of view, but just with respect to most other altcoins performing quite well, I'm surprised, when we talk about BitTensor and we talk about the AI sector, it used to be the crowning jewel in 2024. Doesn't really seem to feel that way at the moment. So need to have a look at where that currently sits. I'm still only got about 30% of my original allocation in BitTensor at the moment. So I'm still in a sidestep. And I'm just waiting to see where the options line up to buy that in. So we'll go over those a little bit later. Let's just skim through some news. Don't think there's been any other questions. It can't be an Avenger news call without just pointing out that Saylor continues to buy. He bought it yesterday, signified the local top. This thing announced, when it announced yesterday, Bitcoin, let's just get a bit on Bitcoin up here. We were at 95,000. He announced 94,000. He announced we dropped down to 89,000. The guy cannot help but cause local tops. But he's still buying. And there's a lot of people talking out there about whether or not MicroStrategy is a good investment strategy for an investor. And we talked about that a little bit last week. But regardless of that, Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy are continuing to buy up as much Bitcoin as they can. They don't see it as a bad price at 100,000. They see it as a 90% discount from the $1 million Bitcoin it's going to be in however many years they predict it's going to be there. But what is interesting is if you're ever interested in following the buys and any sells for MicroStrategy, he publishes his own tracker now, the sailortracker.com, which links all of the buys, as you can see on the screen, with the price of Bitcoin, the green dots there, links them to the tweets in which he advertises them, lists it all down here. So for those of you who want to get stuck in the weeds of what he's bought, when he's bought it, when he declared it, all that kind of stuff, it's all here. And you can see, even includes some sales. I think this is one of the only sales that they've done back in the deep bear market, December 2022. Yeah, but so you can follow it. 450,000 BTC they now own, which is wild in terms of the size of that. And this is another thing to keep an eye on, actually. As we're going through the news, and we sometimes talk about on-chain analytics. Well, Bitcoin exchange reserves are a near 7-year low. 7 years, we're talking beyond the last bull cycle. This is the cycle before. We're talking 2017, 2018 kind of levels at the moment. And why is this important? People are buying and moving their Bitcoin off exchanges. Obviously, good practice. That's what we always encourage people to do. But it's running up good. So there is a supply squeeze potentially going there in the charts. Now, if we have a look at this chart here, we can now see that we're around about 2.35 million Bitcoin available on exchanges. I've always suggested, and FTX kind of proved it, that if you added up all the Bitcoin amounts on every single exchange that you could buy it on, it is far in excess of 2.3 million. I swear people paper trade. Companies paper trade Bitcoin all the time, but allegedly there is 2.35 million left. You go back to the deep bear market end of 2022, and we had 3.25. So we've lost 900,000 Bitcoin in the last 2 years. This is fine. This can keep on going down. In terms of you trying to identify, are we getting to a point where the cycle is going to be over? This going down is good. That's what we want to see. People are buying and holding. They still think there's a future in it. We start to see an uptick. That's when we've got some cause for the concern, because people are moving their Bitcoin back to the exchange, generally to be sold. And so you can't just deal with this one chart on its own, because it's only giving you the exchange reserve. We want to know whether or not those are also being sold. But we can kind of see previously when we do tip up quite significantly, the sharp uptick in 2017, kind of leaned to that blow off top. And then again, when we were running into 2021, sharp uptick of Bitcoin going back onto exchanges, and then within a matter of weeks we ended up losing the level there. So something to certainly keep an eye on, but for now it looks like exchanges are running out of Bitcoin. That can only be a good thing for when retail come rushing in. And the other thing to talk about, sorry that went a bit high pitch there, is the ETFs, because Friday just gone, the 10th of January, it celebrated, or the Bitcoin ETFs celebrated their 1 year anniversary. And I think I talked about this in the end of year review, but the fact that we actually did cross the 1 year anniversary mark, I think we do need to just take a moment just to see how big the Bitcoin ETFs have been. In that 12-month period, we saw $129 billion worth of inflows into an ETF, an absolute record breaker by any stretch of the imagination. I think in the first 20 days of trading, it already cost $3 billion, and then it's just gone up and up and up, and it's smashed every record for gold and any other ETF that's ever been out there. And this is just its first year. So regardless of, where the fear and greed index may be, how scared you necessarily are to look at your Delta portfolio, or whatever it may be, certainly the Bitcoin ETFs have been a resounding success over the last 12 months. They have legitimized cryptocurrency. Now, whether or not that's actually a good thing, I mean, the narrative has certainly shifted. 2017, when I joined the market, it was anti-government. We don't need your filthy money. We're going to pump this up to 100K on our own. Whereas now it's very much ETFs, institutional investment. Let's get Donald Trump in because he is a pro-Bitcoiner. We want strategic Bitcoin reserves. And that's now the narrative. And I think that kind of makes sense in that, 2 cycles ago, it was a lot more speculative. It was a lot more under the radar. And so you could still get large percentage gains just from retail pumping it. But as it's become more mainstream, we need bigger income, bigger revenue channels to help move the price to, percentage wise as to what we want to see. So the narrative naturally has to change, because unfortunately, you pull all of retail together, they're not going to have $129 billion between them. So I think that's going to be where it goes, but they have been a great success. Ethereum, not so much. There were people that argue that it's still performing very well. I know BlackRock are buying the Ethereum ETF, but the real question for 2025 is what other ETFs are on the cards. I think Polymarkets has Solana at about 79% chance of getting an ETF, and I think XRP is also up there in like high 70%. So there's certainly some other ones that may well sort of attract. I don't think there's anything too much really to go through within this. I suppose Bitcoin's ETF flip gold, take that with a pinch of salt. That is BlackRock, so IBIT's allocation within, or assets under management of the Bitcoin ETF, flip their assets under management for their gold ETF. And that happened November 24, as it says here. So, yeah, okay. We actually have a look at some of the numbers of the ETFs. And I appreciate this isn't helping us in terms of a day-to-day. But, some people are a little fearful, which we're going to talk about later on. And I think as long as this is still going up, we've still got a chance, okay? 508,000 Bitcoin have been purchased since the launch 12 months ago. It's 508,000 Bitcoin. I mean, you think there's only 450 Bitcoin produced every day. What's that? 1.182 Bitcoin K. What's that one? That's the net inflows. I'm trying to see what the 1.1 billion. Oh no, it's not a billion. It's a Bitcoin, isn't it? Sorry. It's still. Anyway, this week alone, we've seen 8,000 bought in. It's actually been a bit of a slow week, as you'll see on this one here. Interestingly enough, we've actually nearly $1 billion down over the last sort of 4 trading days. With really only BlackRock buying yesterday. Everyone else was selling. But BlackRock have been, since the start of the year, buying huge amounts as they usually continue to do. And we can actually see when we look here, IBIT BlackRock at 555,000 BTC. That's their balance at the moment. The closest to that bitwise being at 40,000. So we've got BlackRock, we've got MicroStrategy, we've got Grayscale. The 3 juggernauts holding it. And between those 3, we're talking 1,100,000, so maybe 5% of the overall Bitcoin supply is owned by those 3. 1,100,000, sorry, is owned by those 3 companies, which again is absolutely crazy. But that answers another question. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. There's no real risk right now of BlackRock or whatever suddenly buying up 50% of the circulating supply, of the overall supply, and being able to change the code and all that kind of stuff. There's loads of things I went into about miners and developers and just people sort of actually buying that if they were to change the amount, etc. So I'll leave that there. But the 3 biggest companies, although it's only taken them 12 months, arguably Grayscale and BlackRock have been buying longer, they still only have 5% of it. So impressive nonetheless, I think. And that sort of gives me some sort of comfort. And as I say, for me to be really worried, I'd want to see, BlackRock's column pretty much all red, big sales numbers. I know that's going to give me 3 weeks behind the curve, but that's certainly going to be a canary in the coal mine of where it's like institutional investors are getting out what's going on here. And don't think that they won't. This can be relatively easy for institutional investors to sell and get out. So if they're not happy, we'll know about it. It may take 10 days worth of data for us to start cottoning onto that trend, but it's certainly going to be there. And I'm only really interested in BlackRock with that. Anyhow, so let's have a look at price action. What have we seen that happen? Well, yesterday's price action, what we've got here is a 12-hour chart. So running into yesterday's price action, we were just sort of skirting along the 1.618 at 94,000. And then suddenly we've had that sharp, and it was a sharp drop down over the Asia session into the London session, down to around about 89,000, which absolutely wicked out and took out this liquidity level, which had been building over the past few weeks, hit the very bottom of that and just suddenly turned around. And again, an aggressively bought up Bitcoin towards the back end of the London session into the US session. And although this is the 12-hour chart, if I just move this onto the daily, I kind of showed you it earlier, but that wick there is impressive. So a lovely low test all the way down through, and again closing in and around that 618. And then what are we seeing at the moment? We're kind of seeing, so I'll put it back on the 12-hour. What we're seeing at the moment is price sort of building off this, and there is, I've done it from here, I'll spread it out longer another day, but the next real level of trapped liquidity are these short liquidity levels, probably built up from yesterday's fall, or certainly as this was falling through at the back end of last week. in and around 97.5 to around about 99,000. Now, at the moment, actually, price action has hit that and immediately turned around. But again, that was a strong 4-hour candle from the markets open. We've still got a bit of time until the markets close, and I think it's building from there. And for me, I can really see a potential retest of this. Matter of fact, we take it, what's going on here? Take it onto a clean chart, which isn't clean. I'll delete these and come back to them. What are we on weekly? Let's just put this on the daily. As I mentioned before, we've got this ranging pattern, and that's what it's going to be. And the fact of the matter is, with this ranging pattern here, it could play out incredibly long. We've sat through ranging patterns. You know, this 8-month ranging pattern, which was pretty painful. And let's face it, within this 8 months, here, arguably here. I'm going to have a look at those against the fear and greed index a little bit later on. But every single time that we hit those, fear and greed, I guarantee it would have been either where we are now or lower. Market sentiment on crypto Twitter and Discord and everything else, incredibly low. Look at it now. You'd be biting your hand off to try and get some Bitcoin at 52,000. But it felt like the end of the world here. And that's all that really is going on here. You know, yeah, okay, we've had the highs of 108,000. But getting down here, every time we get down to this level, one, we have a strong bounce, but it feels like we just erode away from our greed, which is great. You know, we get a bit more fearful about it, but sentiment just seems to massively shift. And yesterday was a particularly bad day for that. Someone actually mentioned in Discord that it's always quiet in Discord on red days, and it is. And that's probably because people just decide to stop staring at charts and go out and actually have a life, which is fair enough. But, you know, we are a reflection, whether or not we want to accept it, of the wider crypto space. And yeah, that kind of fear. But ultimately, history has shown us that this is the time you actually want to be buying. As difficult as it can be, that's the time you actually want to start buying. And more times often than not, those are the times that are very successful. When the rest of the market, we say it all the time, but when the rest of the market, when there's blood in the street, however you want to do it, when the rest of the market is panicking, whatever, that's when you want to be buying, okay? That's what the big boys do. That's what the market makers do. They buy when the price is going down, okay? They sell when the price is going up. And so we need to just take a leaf out of their book there. Now, we'll come back to fear and greed in a moment. But again, you know, potentially from this fall, maybe we are starting to form some sort of double bottom, W formation with a potential move to the upside on the cards. Now, to get to that, we probably need to cross 98,000, maybe even a little bit higher. And I'd argue then if we're going to be looking at that, we might as well start having a look at, let's just get rid of these yellow lines. You know, these white lines I was drawing before, I appreciate it's only 2 touch points at the moment, but it's the best we can go on. So now we're kind of saying, well, the next real interaction for me then is going to be in and around that 100K level, psychological level that it is, potentially running into this trend line here. We've also got a decent amount of price action there, and I've not even thrown a fib on yet. So we'll have a look at those fibs in a moment. But that's sort of where I would be sort of wondering what the movement is here. And it doesn't really feel, from a TA point of view, there's anything stopping us before we get to that 100K level. Particularly with how strong that bounce has been. Now, from the world news point of view, there's plenty of things that can stop us. CPI data being one of them tomorrow. We're already expecting CPI data to come in hotter than last month. So CPI year on year last month was 2.7. We're expecting it to be 2.9. There's already a narrative being told to us that we might be getting slightly higher, sticky inflation, whatever you want to call, coming in. Now, if it comes in at 2.9 mark, it's probably already allowed for that. It comes in higher than that, then we may be having some problems. Comes in lower, I think that's going to be fantastic news, and it's going to give a lot of support to Powell and his FOMC cronies to maybe even consider reducing the rates, the federal rate next, I think it's next week. I'm fairly certain it's next week. Apologies if it's the week after. I can tell you by just doing that. It's the week after. So it's the 29th. Okay. But yeah, from a TA point of view, there doesn't really seem to be much getting in the way. If I just now close that, and we can have a look at what's causing this. And I think we threw this fib on last week, but we go from here to here, and that's kind of, tells us a picture within itself, which is what we were talking about last week. I got it to 88 because that's the figure I was working on. But however it's lined up now, probably because I've just done it body to body rather than wick to wick, 89.4. But can you see? So what we had, price action really fighting this 236 level at 95.5k, lost it, shot straight down to the 89.4, and then immediately bounced back up. And now we found the momentum to break through there. So again, a nice little spot down here, and then off it goes. I was hoping I might see one in between there, but not the case this time. Certainly what I'm going to be looking at. We'll go on the lower time frames when we go on to the market making kind of chart a little bit later on. But I do just want to have a look at fear and greed, because actually, despite the relatively poor start, or in people's opinions, of how January has commenced, we're actually still at 63. We're still in greed. Last week we were at 78. Last month we were at 80 and beyond. So we've not cooled off that much. Now, whether you use Alternative Me or CMC, the CMC's fear and greed index is actually at 46. So this one has cooled off. This one updates a few times during the day, so potentially it's there, but maybe this is getting a bit more of a reflective view of the market. I think this one is for cryptocurrency, where the other one was for Bitcoin. So that's probably another factor into why this one has dropped. We are seeing that alt season is certainly not on the cards at the moment. If we have a look at our alt season right now, we're at 49. So we're stone cold in the middle. No real alt season from that. And it cooled off quickly. And I remember beginning of December saying, when it came above here, alt seasons burn bright, but they burn quick. And that one really did. And it started to melt away. Hopefully we can start to build off this and come through. But just taking it back to that comment I made earlier, just about how's previous. Let's just put this on the weekly. I think it's going to be easier. Let's throw the fear and greed on. And this is just more of a, let's not panic too much. But, we dropped down here. We saw that dip to 68. So, okay, the first drop down, not too bad. We lose it again. Now we're down to 50. Then we had that big drop down. But again, bottom of the range, we were at 55,000. We went all the way down to 30 or 29 even. Next one down again, hugging the bottom and the gutter down here. So the bottom of these ranges, we do seem to panic. But as long as we can hold our own, and, let's face it, we've been in this probably for 3-4 years minimum anyway. We know what it's like to sometimes sit in the red for a little bit. But if you can hold your own long enough, then you are going to see that this thing is going to move. Now, that obviously only works until it doesn't, particularly in the 4-year cycle. But if the 4-year cycle is working, I appreciate that's what we've got to talk about in a moment. If the 4-year cycle is still working, then we have got anywhere, politician answer here, from 3 to 9 months of a bull market still left to go. So it shouldn't suggest at the moment that we have tipped over that. And maybe next week we'll go into on-chain analytics to have a look at where they sit in terms of market top indicators. But from what I looked at a few weeks ago, they were nowhere really to be seen. So yes, okay, it may have been painful. It may be stressing you out. It may cause you to rage. It may cause you to be nervous. But what have we really done? We haven't lost that much. Let's give it a fear and greed. It's taking up too much room. Remove. Let's go back onto the daily. I'm just going to clean this. Because, top to the bottom, let's just do wick to wick, top to bottom. What have we lost so far in this drawdown? From the very top to the very bottom, 18%. That's it, 18%. Throughout this bull cycle narrative, we take it all the way back to 2022. Let's have a look at some of these drawdowns, okay? This one here, first one, top to bottom. That was in the banks. Do you remember the banks had an issue? We lost a couple of banks. Can't remember the names now. 23%, all right? Just going to get rid of them when it's done. Next drawdown. 21%. That was from April to June. Next drawdown, I think you can see a pattern here. 21%. Next drawdown, going into 2024 now. 22%, 21%, sorry, after I corrected it. This one here, all-time high. I mean, I could do 16%, 20%. Here we go, first to breach it, 24%. That's from the all-time high that was set in March down to the carry trade sort of unwinding in the beginning of August was a 32% drop. Generally, then, what I'm trying to get at is we see drops of around about 21% all the time. There was 5, and I could have got 5 just from that 8-month period. I didn't. So there is anywhere from 5 to 10, 20%, 21% drops in a bull market. And this here, what have we seen? We've seen a 17% drop. That is par for the course. It just feels worse because we're talking from 6 figures to 5 figures. We're talking about $18,000, $19,000. Whereas before, when we were only at 20,000 and it was a 20% drop, it's only talking about $4,000, but the percentage is still there. So we need to bear that one in mind. And we start having a look at where is 21? 21 is at 85. What was the worst? 32, I think. 32, 73. So we could sit through those. We could experience that. We went through that last week and it could still be fine. At the moment, we're ranging at around about a 17% drop. And it's not even really that because, let's face it, we've actually had an uptick since that all-time high. So you could just be saying it's really from this 102 down there. It's only a 13% drop. But the point I'm just trying to make there is there's nothing that right now that is screaming from a price action point of view, it's over. And as I say, yesterday's price action shows me that there is strength around about that 90K level. Bull markets, dips are bought up aggressively. That dip was bought up aggressively, okay? Positive to see. And next week, as I say, if all things are considered, we start to see some positive action with the inauguration of Donald Trump. It's no surprise that the dollar has rallied initially leading up to Trump. New president coming in, regardless of your political views on them, a new president coming in normally brings about a fresh change. So that's going to provide strength with the dollar. But the United States don't want a particularly super strong dollar. And I think at the moment, there's been a lot of talk about tariffs and everything else, which has just led to the fact that the dollar has rallied. There has been some discussions over the last couple of days about sort of reining back in some of those tariffs. But the reality of it is we need to wait until the new president and his team are in office, and we'll see what the weight of those tariffs and how far they're going to spread later on. But ultimately, they're going to come in. There have been some unofficial promises from a crypto point of view about where we're going to go. I mean, I remember Donald Trump even tweeting, or I suppose it was on that Truth platform, so whatever they call that there, about Ross Ulbricht, what was it called again? What was the dark web? Your mind just goes blank. Anyway, the founder of the dark web eBay site, whatever you want to call it, who was given 2 back-to-back life sentences. He was talking about commuting his sentence day one of getting in the office. Not suggesting that's going to happen, but the fact he made initial promises like that. Imagine if he did it. This is one of Silk Road. Thank you, Sarah. This is one of the crypto OGs, and what a statement that would be for that. So there's plenty, I think, to certainly look at, and I'm surprised with the sentiment that we're seeing. I'm actually surprised with fear and greed sub 50. I kind of am more aligned to this, and I'm happy with this cooling off. That's what we want. We want to have levels of greed still for us to go. We need the greed. Greed is good. Greed is retail, new blood coming in. Unfortunately, that greater fool theory, and that they're going to come in and buy our bags when we want to get out. So resetting down here is fine. That bunching up, as we see on this chart here, we needed it to break, and we were, that's a considerable amount of time we spent plus 70. You don't normally see that, even in sort of bull markets peaks here. It didn't stay as much as it did. Probably almost a full quarter stuck in there. So yeah. Anyhow, sorry, quick drink. One thing that I was surprised at And we didn't talk about this. I only noticed it today. December actually closed as red. Now, that is a bit of a spanner in the works in the old Bitcoin is incredibly strong in Q4s and Q1s in bull market years. Well, granted, it was only 3% down, but it was still down. After a strong November, maybe fair enough. But January, when I looked at this yesterday, January was also down. But that, as I said, has recovered, and Q1's looking good. And Q4 generally is looking good there. So just interesting that that's where it's at. Anyway, let's just close this poll. Thank you, everyone, for it. And effectively, 70% of you are saying that this will be a standard 4-year cycle, that Bitcoin dominance will continue to fall away, and alt seasons are going to have their day in the sun. Whereas 28% of you, is surprisingly high, I think, and I think this is interesting, are saying actually Bitcoin dominance is going to continue. Bitcoin is the narrative of this cycle, and that's where the money is going to go. Now, why do I mention it? I mention it because someone sent me a message from a Telegram group that they were in, and it's this. Doesn't matter who, it's just a random person. It's just, but you know, what you're in camp 1, this time it's different. No alt season, Bitcoin dominance keeps pushing. Camp 2, history rhymes. We'll get our usual altcoin season. This guy's in camp 2, and it's the reply that's interesting because they're saying actually in a lot of new Discord groups, actually camp 1 outweighs camp 2, and camp 2 is almost exclusively people that are heavy in altcoins because they've experienced it from the last cycle, whereas newbies coming into this market, the first market they've seen, all they've seen is Bitcoin or meme coins, and so they're very much the narrative of actually Bitcoin's going to take it. And the reason I say it's interesting, potentially playing devil's advocate there, is, you know, we need a new influx of retail coming in, and if the mindset at the moment is meme coins and Bitcoin, doesn't leave that much room for altcoins. I appreciate the meme coins fall under the altcoin banner, but a lot of potential or the drawdown of Bitcoin dominance that we would usually expect to go into Ethereum, large cap altcoins, medium cap altcoins, may just bypass all of that. Maybe Solana gets a benefit, and maybe Base and a few other sort of layer ones that build meme coins off the back of them. But yeah, maybe it is just meme coins that really started it. And that's going to affect me because whilst I do have meme coins and I do have Bitcoin, I've still got a decent amount of altcoins that don't really sit within either of those. So I'm not doing anything about that yet. I'm not changing it. This isn't a person that I know. It's just interesting that this is being discussed. I've seen other people discussing it. And we know that meme coins is very popular. I certainly know in our Discord, the meme coin channel goes absolutely crazy. It's impossible to keep up with, in my opinion. But it does make me wonder as to whether or not, yes, we may see a 4-year cycle in terms of price action of Bitcoin, but how does that interfere and interact with altcoin season? We'll have to just keep on watching that one as we go through. Let's just minimize that so I can see what's going on. Perfect. Okay, just a couple of quick questions, one from Amy and 2 from David. So Amy's just put she's new to the group. Well, hi there, Amy. Welcome to the group. But no time sends out its trades that you can copy. How often do they get sent out? I'm keen to try and piggyback the trades. Okay, yeah, absolutely. And I'm very much okay, there's stuff you need to learn, but there's no better learning than just diving in. I don't think my dad taught me to swim by just throwing me in the pool, but that kind of analogy of just diving in, but just do it with smaller amounts. In terms of how often, they just come out whenever he feels, there's a trading setup to go from. So there's no like, every week he's guaranteeing he's going to do 5 or 6 trades. That's not really how it works. But you'll just see, suddenly in Telegram, a trade like this, a chart going up with, how you just need to understand how to interpret it, because there's an entry and a liquidation level. I'm very much a believer in also setting your own stop loss, which you'd have to work out from your max risk and everything else. But leave you to do that, and sort of some sort of visual picture of to why that trade's gone ahead. And you can have it where it goes time without any, and then suddenly there's a whole flutter of them, like what we've seen beginning of the year. So I don't think there's any real set amount. All I'd say is if you're not set up on Telegram, get set up on Telegram, because that's where they land. They do also appear in the general section of the Discord, but that's where I'd go. I don't personally follow the trades. I don't do too much perp trading. What I do is Bitcoin, Solana, and maybe if I'm feeling adventurous, Tau or some sort of meme coin. But don't really follow those, so I can't help you too much on that. Dave's book, can you run through the charts of tokens in yours and Science portfolio? Yep, I'll go through those. I will add the ones in Science portfolio. This is what I've assumed is the portfolio. Trading, LPT, which is live peer, I think. Memes, I don't know what's in the memes one, so I've not really looked at that. Ethereum, AIXBT, Taunu, Sui, and BTC, and Tau. No Zappy. I don't know if he's out of Zappy, but I'll cover Zappy as well, because I know that's one that a few people have in. So, yep, I'll go through those in a little bit. And then David said, do you think the AI market is oversaturated? It's tough, that, because it feels like it is oversaturated. It feels like, it's arguably, outside of memes, the biggest narrative for altcoins at the moment. And so it does feel people are just producing even meme-based AIs, but with just the strength of AI, and I hate to just say ChatGPT, but sometimes it's the easiest thing, and NVIDIA, the popularity of those over the last couple of years, it just makes AI an easy sell. And there may be some fantastic AI projects that are out there, but it also is just, if someone wants to come up with one, just stick AI in the title or on the cover page, and that might help move it. It does feel like it is a bit oversaturated, I'll be honest. I get kind of almost rebasing DAO vibes, as in that, for those of you that were around in the back end of 2021, beginning of 2022, rebasing DAOs, it felt like there was like 15 to 20 coming out every single day. All of them crap. Sorry, it was a loud noise then. But I kind of just feel like, maybe there's a lot coming out. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the AI market is about to crumble. No guarantee that it won't either. But you just got to be careful with whatever it is that you're looking at from an AI point of view. For me, when we used to go into talking about token research and going for it, one of the first things I asked, what is the real world problem this is actually solving? Because I still stand by, a lot of altcoins don't require a token. The token is for governance and utility and transaction fees. It's absolutely worthless. So what is the project actually solving, and ultimately does it require a token? So if you are gonna be looking to get into the AI sector, and that's what I was looking for. I mean, we've got AI and big data, it used to be a lot smaller. It used to be like 8 billion not so long ago. We've also got AI agents, which we're kind of starting to have a look at the moment with virtuals and other agents out there. I mean, look at virtuals protocol ecosystem has already got its own category right now. AI launch pads, AI memes, so there's AI and big data there, generative AI. I mean, these are just categories, never mind, individual projects. But yeah, someone said it's like the ICO of 2017. I won't go as far as say it's that bad, because I'm sure a lot of them have some good use to them. But it's definitely something to just be conscious of going in there. I don't want to spend any time just sort of picking at random and going, oh yeah, this one's good or this one's bad. You just got to do your own research within that. Much like, and it's going to lead me into, so we might as well start talking about BitTensor. I will come back and talk about Bitcoin's price after I've talked about BitTensor. But since we're talking about AI and projects and a little bit of research, the question someone mentioned something in Discord, and I made a comment that, the reality of being in a community is it does become a bit of an echo chamber, particularly when senior people in there like a project, get behind a project. It just becomes natural, it becomes easy just to sort of go, well, they know what they're talking about. It's a project that I'm going to get into as well. And BitTensor, was the one in 2024. But for some reason, and I can't quite put my finger on it, it just hasn't really performed that well over the last few months. Last week we had a look out of the top 100. It was the second worst coin over the last 90 days. And I stand by the fact that everything has its time in the sun and everything has time to cool off. But it made me realize, let's start actually looking at FUD. Let's try and find tweets, videos, articles about why BitTensor is bad, and try and understand what that is. And I couldn't find anything particularly recent, and I don't want to spend too much time on it. The general consensus of feedback of why BitTensor was potentially not great was, one, it's speculative value. So, what's it actually delivering? And bear in mind, this was 4 or 5 months ago. What's it actually really delivering? Yes, it's got a lot of subnets at the moment, not many of them alive. And when you're producing 7,200 tau a day, which is, even at $420 is $3 million worth of tau a day. You roll that out a year, it's $1 billion. $1 billion valuation per year that is just generated and effectively distributed. And what value does this company, in inverted commas, this decentralized AI ecosystem really provide to justify that level? And so the vast majority of its value is speculative. Now, that isn't a problem, because, and I don't see that as a problem. This is what people criticize it. So a lot of the stuff here is speculative. A lot of crypto is speculative. A lot of traditional markets, stock markets, etc., is speculative. So it's not necessarily an issue there. But then when you take that to the next level of, well, how the rewards are distributed is potentially a little unfair, and detail we'll talk about in a moment. But ultimately, that 7,200 mining rewards has to be distributed, and the validators effectively it's not like it's evenly distributed to all of the subnets. There's a hierarchy that is assigned to it, and that's determined by the validators. And the real question is, and I am very high level in this, so excuse me if I dumb it down a bit too much, but what logic, what experience, what rationale, what set of criteria the validator is doing to justify why a text-to-speak LLM or subnet has more value than an AI yield subnet like Sturdy Finance or something along those lines. But that's what happens. And so, there's some questions that come about there. There's also comments in and around, are the staking rewards too high? I mean, they're ranging anywhere from 14 to 19%, which is quite a lot. And, it's not rebasing down a lot, but it's quite a lot. Naturally just creates selling pressure, because people earn it for free, they can sell it for free. And that's what miners, validators, and big bag holders just do. So there's a lot of sell pressure that ultimately comes out there. But the other thing for me is dynamic tau. And dynamic tau has the potential to resolve a lot of issues. But I think there's a lot of confusion about dynamic tau. One, we don't have an exact date of when we think it's going to come out, but hopefully it's going to come out in sort of the next 30 days. That's what Const has sort of tweeted or commented about. It's at testnet at the moment. But what is it? What's it going to do, and how's it going to help? And BitTensor is an already complicated project. It's an ecosystem in itself, which currently has 54 subnets, all doing their own thing anyway, almost impossible to keep on top of. Then suddenly dynamic tau is going to come in. And for those who aren't aware, some of the things that a dynamic tau is going to do is going to stop staking rewards, okay? You're not going to see 20%. You might initially, because how it's weighted is all going to be based on tau initially. But once the dynamic tau element comes in and the individual subnets have their own tokens and everything else, that weighting is going to massively drop to the point where it's almost gone. So, some of you that buy and hold tau because it's a bit of nice passive income, that's going to change. But actually, just in terms of what the dynamic tau is going to do, and then suddenly the introduction of subnet tokens. What does that mean? Does that mean that tau's now less worth, not worth as much, or it suddenly means that we're going to be able to trade so many other things, it's going to get incredibly confusing? And the answer to that is actually no. You can't interchange and intertrade subnet D tokens, D tau, if you will. But that message isn't particularly clear. So every subnet is actually going to have a pot of tau, which their dTau token is basically transferred in. Imagine it like Uniswap and Ethereum. And so if you did want to move out of dTau, whatever it is, Sturdy Finance's dTau, you'd have to, that goes against tau. So maybe the price is actually being suppressed because all these subnets are having to buy a shit ton of tau to have in their pots, and that potentially could be it. But I can't quite put my finger on why the price just isn't reacting like other tokens. I mean, you look at virtuals. Virtuals is up 13% today. It's up, I don't know, nearly probably 40% from its low a couple of days ago. Yet tau actually down, just continuing to fall. So I don't have the answer. I will continue to delve in. I'd love to speak to Siam about this, and if I'm on the call on Thursday, that's what I'll do. I'll ask him some questions. I'll play devil's advocate, because the only way we really know and we can believe in our convictions is to challenge them, and that's just how I like to do things. So I'm in that process at the moment. I still have tau. I haven't sold that allocation. It's not like I'm put off from it. I'm just trying to understand, is the price being suppressed? And if it is, great, buy, because at some stage when the suppression stops, hopefully we're going to have that volume that's going to drive that price going forward. I don't think the Grayscale bit tensor fund is particularly flying at the moment, so I don't think that's necessarily it, although that is a plus column thing. And hey, look, if I've said anything wrong or people disagree with, please let me know, whether now or in Discord. I'm more than happy to have those things challenged there going forward. I kind of went through, the old classic Twitter search of sort of put detail on what we're going. And look, this is it, where Const has kind of said, someone's like Mystics as 4 days ago, realistic assumption for detail to go live in the next 30 days. And he said, that's realistic. We'll try our best to push this out ASAP. So look, that's where I got that kind of from. There's an article here about detail. It's not very long. Thought it was going to be the way that someone had said you need to read it. But we'll just have to sort of wait and see what it is. But if you are a tau holder, you need to understand what detail is, whether or not that is going to excite you, scare you, or you're not even bothered either way. But you need to read up on it or watch a video on it. I would seriously stress you do that. And if it is a matter of 4 weeks away, you probably want to do that sooner rather than later. All right, let's get into some price action. We'll talk about tau, since on screen, Bitcoin, then we'll run through the Siam tokens, and then we'll see where we are with time after that. So this is the fib levels that we've sort of been looking at, and the price action. We're on the 4-hour chart at the moment. And this is what I mean. Like, we'll get rid of this for now because it's a bit messy. Straight away, what do I see here? One, we're in a downtrend. We've been in a downtrend since the beginning of December, but we are below the 200, below the 800, below the 50, below the 20, below the 10 EMAs at the moment. We can't seem to get past them. Yeah, we have a little bit of a move up to the 20, but right now that 10 is kicking our ass. And we haven't broke it. And that's why there's no real urgency for me right now to dive back into tau until I've seen that we've potentially broken that. Now, we had that strong move down and we lost the 400 level. And I actually thought, this is it, 350's on the cards. But to be fair, we bounced back from that pretty quickly, regained sort of that 410 level, and then nothing. And it's been nothing right now. So what I want BitTensor to wake up like the rest of the altcoin market has. Most tokens have done 3 to 7%. Some, like Casper, 18%, Virtual 13%, SPX 12%, so some have done very well, but most have seen a good green day today, but maybe we're just lagging. But even a 5% move from here, I mean, 5% is going to take us to 430. I want to see us break this 50 EMA. So we're needing a 9% move, really. I want us to break the 50 EMA at 450, stick the landing, and then go from there. I got out at 506, so I got a bit of room to work with here. I appreciate some of you may not. But if it doesn't, and we just continue down, then I'm throw that fib back on now, which I don't know where I took it from. Got to have been from down here. probably about it. Yeah, you throw that fib on now. So 408, okay, is the level which we're pretty much resting on. We lose that, 350, 618, the golden level. That's what I'd be looking. What do? We clear out some vector levels. We, get all the way down to 50. Take out this vector zone as well, which I need to take out this one here as well by hitting there. And then, yeah, maybe we got it. We have a look at some price action in and around back there, and we can see, actually, you know what? From the summer, that's where the tips are. Those moves up that we had in July and August. And it's kind of the resting point of that shoulder there from that strong move we had at the cuddle in September. So there's definitely some levels to have a look at. But as you'll see with some of the other charts, looking good, looking strong, looking like they may have slightly pulled back, but building into something else. I don't get those vibes, unfortunately, with Tau at the moment. For me, though, the constant battle that I have is don't be greedy, don't be greedy, don't be greedy. I've done lots of good side steps. My last 2 side steps, I've been greedy and I've been caught out. And so part of me is like, Harry, just buy some, because if it moves the wrong way, at least you've capitalized a little bit. And every time I go to put the buy in, I cancel it because something in the chart tells me otherwise. Whereas actually, I think I just need to buy something, Harry, and then sit and wait to see with the rest. But right now, I want to see it on the 4 hour breaking the 450, really to know that this is reversing. And do you know what? If it did, then you could argue, especially when on the hourly, there's probably a W formation there, which we could see it. But even, let's just say that we did break it. Look what there, the 200 and the 800 about to meet at 490. You can't tell me that's not going to be a strong resistance point. That being said, could be a good little trade there. That could be a 25% trade. Get in around about 400, get out around about 500, 20%, 25%, I don't know, 20%. And then see where it is. Maybe it only gets down to 450, but there's an opportunity to be had. Don't be afraid to have those. But yeah, just be careful with them. Right, what else on Siam's list? Oh, I was going to do Bitcoin. Let's have a look at Bitcoin then. So Bitcoin on the lower time frames. See what I mean? So look at Bitcoin, prime example. So yesterday we found ourselves. Where the hell's the? Oh, there it is. Okay, 800's down there. Below the 200, below the 50, below the 10, below the 20. That was yesterday. We hit the bottom at 89, shot back up. What did we break through? 10, 20, 50, 200 with speed, with volume. Okay, and now we are resting above the 200 on the 4 hour, looking like a much stronger picture. That looks like a healthy picture. Hell, yeah. Okay, maybe we get down to 95, maybe even 94.5. I can see that, but a nice springboard to go up from it. That looks like a break of structure for me. On the 4 hour, you could argue there was that and that with a neckline there. We've broken it, Kobo'd it. Now it's time to move up and to attack this vector candle zone here, which also ties in the 100K, which I showed you on the previous Bitcoin chart with that sort of trend line going down. We've got fib levels in and around 99,000 as well. So that, as I mentioned earlier, there's nothing on the higher time frames. There's nothing on the 4 hour that's suggesting actually that there's anything in our way. 99. Okay, there is on the 4 hour, maybe that and that. Okay, but that's still at 98.5. So that's pretty close to 99 in my book. So yeah, looking all right there. Right, what else was there? Is this, let me just double check. Live peer, it was live peer, okay. So I didn't realize Simon had some live peer, and I apologize if he doesn't anymore. I just went off that last portfolio there. But what we're seeing from live peer here, not as strong as Bitcoin's move, but we've had that move down, but we've now broken back above the 10 and the 20 EMA. We're working up to the 50, but the reality is 50 and the 200. The 200 is just at the top of the 50 cloud. Can you see? So that's sort of 14 to 1420. Going to be a very important level there. We're not in a downtrend. We're just ranging. But the last impulse move up didn't get us back in near that high. And so we do have to be careful that even if we do get through this, is $17 going to be what catches us out? A nice strong impulse move up. $17, maybe it's an area for it to turn around, come back and have a look at the 200, the 800, the 50. And the 200, 850 are all pretty darn close. They're within $1 of each other. So it's obviously been ranging for some time now. I'm trying to, this is the first time I've looked at this chart, so I'm trying to just, where would I draw a fib? Well, let's be positive, shall we? Let's draw it from here down to there. Okay. So these are some of the levels that we can perhaps look to tie in. So we've got 13.6, which we're kind of approaching bottom of the circle there. And then, you know, that's 618 at the 16, right at that hump there. You know, that's what I'd be worried at, is another impulse up here, however many days it takes, failed there and comes back down. We're still in, you know, lower high territories. It's still tradable though, absolutely tradable. I have no idea even what this token is. Apologies. People argue I should, but I don't. I have no idea. Couldn't tell you anything about it. Can this tell me anything about it? Just quickly. I can't be bothered to even look at it. AI. Okay. Don't know what it is. It's got the AI tag in it. It must be good. Right. Next one. ETH. ETH. Oh, man. What a disappointment ETH has been, hasn't it? Ranging like Bitcoin did, but I mean, this is the 4 hour, you know. Head and shoulders, maybe. And this just a Kobo up before a move back down. And you also got a little double top in there too, potentially. But let's have a look. What can we see about it? Yes, it is in a downtrend. It lost the 800 EMA on the 4 hour, but it's recovered above it at the moment. Now resting on the 800, the 10 and the 20. So a decent level of support in and around there. 50 obviously to battle with. I'm just disappointed with Ethereum. That's the honest truth of just its entire role in this cycle has just not been what it has been in the past, and maybe the other layer ones have just surpassed it. But what we can see from these fibs, so this is, you know, impulse move, Trump pump all the way up to the top, down, sort of the Christmas drop that to that 0.5, bounce back up, makes it to 236, and really this 382 level support and resistance, we lose it all the way down to the 618. This, I think, this is a good fib level for having a look at levels here. You know, so you can really kind of draw, you know, 2.9, hopefully the base, but if it isn't, 2681, I think down there, certainly some price action end of October that could support that. But then going up, you know, 3.5. Well, 300 first, then 3.5, and you can add the EMAs to go with it. But that's certainly what I'd be looking at there. Decent enough bounce from yesterday to kind of just bring it back into the status quo. Not quite as strong as we saw, excuse me, with Bitcoin. But again, now AIXBT, I had never even heard of this until I saw it today, and what a day it's had. 44% increase on the day. So when we talk about a strong move up, this is it. I don't know what the, let's have a look. AI, so it's a virtuals, okay. Volume does it have? I mean, it's got $414 million volume in the last 24 hours and a market cap of 500. So very impressive. Circulating supply is about 85%, okay. But yeah, really strong price action today. Now, what we have seen with these, and this is sort of, what do I say about vector candles? They generally always get recovered. Look at these, you know, red and green vector candles have previously been recovered. This strong move up here with, you know, maybe, remember when we get to magenta, that's actually a sell and it's a bit of a high test. Maybe we're going to see a bit of a drop back down here. And if we do, I mean, I can't draw that. That's not the worst level. I mean, it is for price action, but you know, there's definitely some price action in and around there, the 200. But I can see a lot of these vectors just getting eaten back up. That's a sharp move up there, and every other previously sharp move has been retraced. So I'd be a little bit careful potentially on that one. Very good move today. You know, if you've been in a trade with it, or you know, you're looking to maybe take some profit, what a great way to take some profit. I don't know what the entries were in the first place, but yeah, I would suggest that there's a pullback. I mean, look how far, you know, the 10 and the 20, they're spreading out quite nicely. The 50's in an uptick, so all of those are speaking the right things. We're just a bit too far away from them. So 62 at the moment. When we get down to about 50, 50 would be a 50% retrace of this vector candle here. So it'd make a lot of sense. And by the time we get there, the 50 EMA and the cloud's going to probably have caught up with it. So that's what I can see. But it's definitely showing some strength. I don't know what the protocol is on virtuals and all of that kind of stuff. You'd have to have a look at it. But if it got down to this bottom here, hey, I might try and have a look, see if you can long that bad boy, because it is showing some good strength. What is it on? I mean, it's on Binance. I mean, it's on most of them. So it's obviously got some support. But yeah, okay. Next. Sui. So bit of a double top there, down to this neckline, lost it but regained it. So that's a good sign. You know, you could argue that the neckline was actually down here, you know, down at this bit, but ultimately strong drop down, sell off down. All these vector candles, see those vector candles, those red candles there would have had those all recovered. It happens time after time. We are starting to see some long wicks to the north on this, all the way up to the 50 EMA, kind of suggesting there is some sell pressure in and around about $4.70. So we're kind of getting squeezed at the moment between 10, 20 and 50, which we are below, and then the 200 EMA, which we are above. Where that's going to go, I don't know. If the market looks good, I reckon we have another test up here. Maybe we get to that sort of 530 level that we previously had, and we just start to see whether or not we're in some sort of rectangle ranging out. Taunu and Zappi, they're the other two that were on the list. And I've gone on to deck screen of this. So, right, if you're in Taunu and Zappi and you like them, probably need to switch off now, because if you're new and you've not seen me do this before, I'm not going to be very complimentary about these for the next 5 minutes. These tokens are very, very bad investments. That is the bottom line, okay? I've gone on to deck screener so we can see a bit more time. So this is Taunu at the moment. It's currently sitting at 0.003. I mean, look at that chart, okay? This chart looks like a bear market if ever I've seen one. The problem is, look at the volume. There is no volume there. Absolutely zero volume. It's had 33 transactions in the last 24 hours. And even with 33 transactions, saying 27 grams worth of volume, it can't do anything with it. Let's be realistic. How many people in RT do you think are in Taunu? 100? Do you reckon they've got at least a grand? It's 100,000. It's only got a market cap liquidity of 370. I'd argue it's probably more than 100 grand. Whenever you go to try and sell this thing, there's no one else trading in it. Or if they do, they've just stumbled across it. No one's really trading in this thing. And so the best thing you can do is quietly probably get out of this and just sort of slowly get out a little bit, because this just isn't, Cliff's obviously a Taunu and Zappi fan. He's decided to go, but I hope you enjoyed it so far. For me, this is just not it. It's really not. From a charting point of view, there's really not much to say. It's on the linear. Let's put it on the logarithmic. And look at this. I went back. Simon got into this, or RT got into this on the 2nd of Feb. Okay, so we're talking, this is weekly, isn't it? 3 day. Here, this candle here, 0.09. And it immediately, within a couple of days, got to where the price is. I remember getting in at this at 0.029. So basically the price at it now. This thing rode up to 4 cents off the back of RT pushing this to get a Mexi listing. Since it's been listed on Mexi, it's been sell liquidity. And it's not a valuable play. I don't care what you say. I'm sorry to go against everyone on this one. This will not be 1% of Tau's market cap. There is no way in hell. Imagine Tau gets to, I mean, even if Tau's at, what is Tau at? Tau's at what, 4 billion? This is at 400,000. Someone do the maths for me. But that ain't a percent. That's like 0.001 of a percent. This ain't 100xing the performance of Tau alone. This is not doing it. Not on that volume, not on that amount of transactions, and not on the amount that we've got there. So I don't see it. To make matters worse, I did go into a little bit more detail. When Simon got into it, there were 3,170 holders the day Simon bought it. Oh, there's now 3,216. There's only 40 more holders. And that's after RT's flooded into this. This thing ain't increasing, okay? It's not doing anything. So stay well. If you're not in it, stay well clear of it. If you're going to go into memes, go into other memes. Go into the meme Discord channel. Have a look at what they're doing there. It's a bit over my head. But this, if you read into how the guys that are really good at finding memes, what they look for, this isn't it. And unfortunately, I won't be as brutal, but this is even worse. Zappy's actually even worse. Zappy has had 3 transactions in the last 24 hours. In the last week, it's had less than 7 transactions. The volume on Zappy is $122 in the last 24 hours. I don't know how much you lot hold of it, but just imagine what's going to happen when you try and sell it. There is nothing in this. Whatever you put in it is likely lost. That is being realistic. I'm sorry to say it, it's not going anywhere. So that's the only TA I can give on it. There's no hope. I can't. This is the. Let me put it on the 5-minute chart for you. This is the 5-minute chart for Zappy. And you're like, Harry, that doesn't scale right. Because I've got November on the 5-minute chart. It's punching because so little happens that there are huge. Look at this one. So we've got 1st of December, 10 minutes past midnight. The next one is 10 minutes later. Then it's 2 hours later. Then it's 4 hours later. I'm moving the candle, just one candle. This is how little volume there is. And yet it still loses in price. So, yeah, that is me being pretty scathing. Apologies, but that is what it is with it. Someone's asked for AI tech. I don't know if that's a meme. Let's have a look on here. AI tech. This must be it. Put it on the daily. How long have we been going for? Oof. Yeah, wow. I mean, I've been involved in tokens like this. I got into MicroStrategy 2100. It was on Solana, on Ethereum. I decided to get it when it was on Solana. And this looked like this, and it's dead now. I mean, this has gone from 36 down to 8. What I will say about AI Tech, as much as it is having a sell-off. Oh, it's a second on the list. Okay, thank you. Sorry, let me look again. This one here. Okay. A little bit better there. So, and this has, in my opinion, a lot of similarities to Tony. It's had so March 2024. For those of you that aren't remember, it was a good meme coin sort of bull alt season, whatever you want to call it, meme season. And this has had that. It's had that huge run up. You know, going from 1 cent to 50 cents, so 50x over a matter of 3 months. But then since then, it's just been sell liquidity. And if you've got into this at this sort of base level around 8 cents, then fair enough. There's a potential, because it is forming some sort of base in and around there, that this could find a movement. But if you have got in higher than that, you know, the risk to reward just isn't there. Again, 24 hours, only had 234 transactions. We're talking about 100 grand's worth of volume at least. But I personally want to see, even if it burns out, I want to see a lot of transactions. You want to see it in the hundreds of, in the thousands, tens of thousands, really, when we talk about 24-hour time period. That's just my opinion on it. So this has got to move. And yeah, okay, we've seen it double in value in December with that alt season, and it's maybe being punished it. Whenever alt season kicks in again, which it is in the middle, if this thing doesn't move, I'd move on. That's my, memes generally aren't there to be held with. I know Murad has sort of suggested that there's a way to do it, and I do hold Giga and I do hold SPX because they have strength and they have pullbacks, but then they've got a community that will drive it. If this thing doesn't move and transactions increase, volume increase, price increase, when the next meme season is, my personal opinion is you move on from it. That's just where it sits with that. Right, it's been an hour and 50 minutes. I think we're going to probably be getting a bit close to this. I did update my portfolio. So this is currently where it sits. The business side, still 100% BTC. Bought some BTC yesterday. Bought some BTC at the beginning of the month. Yes, Greg, I'll have a look at CAS. I will do. For the rest of it, you can kind of see 30% is in USDT at the moment. 32% is near. Tau's down at 15. I've split out. I've sold all my memes except for Giga and SPX. I've split them out. Bought some Virtue. Got the vendors still there. So that's kind of where the pot sits. That USDT, hopefully ends up back in Tau. Probably a bit more in Virtue. SPX is a bit of a wild one because that started off at less than 1% of my pot, and it is just done that well. I did buy some yesterday, today, so I'm still buying it at $1. But I originally started buying at 15 cents. But I don't want to add too much more to it. Maybe I'll stick with Giga for that. But that's just where that sits. Right, let's just have a quick look at CAS. It warrants a look at because it has moved well. And I mean, look, it was in a real rut for the last sort of month or so. Finally dropped down, had that sort of shakeout down at sort of 10.5 cents. But this is strength. This is Bitcoin strength. Look at it. Strength. And also, these aren't vector candles. This isn't above average volume. This is just average volume climbing out. Then we had this pullback down to confluence of the 200 and the 10 EMA. Strong low test off that into it. Okay, we've run into the 800 EMA on the 4 hour at the moment, but a good move. People were talking in Discord. I know some people are wondering whether or not to get out of it. I'm not in it, but look, that was the double bottom we were looking at. It's broken through that. Maybe we get a retest, the double bottom down at around about 13.2. But if you see that and it breaks, the reality of it is just on price action alone, we should see 15 cents at least, back into this sort of mix. We now have a look at fib for you, top to bottom. I'll do it to this bottom here. Yeah, that's 618 golden ratio, 15.28. So we can sort of stick the landing, get above that. I think that's a level, and I'm not saying to get out there, but that's not bad. Greg, you actually I didn't read what you said. Could we take a look at the CAS chart, both CAS USDT, thoughts on the local double bottom and the Tau CAS chart, potential double top with a neckline at 2.9. I don't think I have CAS Tau anymore. Right, what is it going to be? It's going to be, you want it as CAS, it's going to be CAS USDT. Tau USDT. Yeah. Well, I need to do this one as the maxi one as well. Okay. That's it, isn't it? Right. Let's have a look. I mean, that kind of just says a lot. Now, when I mentioned that Tau was trading and second to bottom, the top 100 the last 90 days, CAS was pretty close as well. But CAS has turned it around, and maybe that's a precursor to what Tau is going to do. But this is kind of showing. I mean, what I would say is we are running into this potential peak there, and 6 on the daily. There's a wide double bottom here, maybe running into that neckline now. Plus, we've got the 200 EMA there, so just be a bit careful with that. Strong move today. In 2.5 hours time, this is going to close as a stonking green vector candle, and maybe hitting this is just so happens when Tau decides to start pumping, and we start to see that this come back down. But it's had a nice strong move there, good double bottom. Well done for those of you that hold. If you're looking for an exit, I mean, see how it reacts off this. If you're looking to exit into Tau, how does it react off that there? That is the culmination of that double bottom as well. Breakthrough, come back for support, and off we go. Worth holding. Reject from here, and we lose the neckline. So it rejects off the neckline as well. If you're the flip flopper, it might be worth moving across. That's just, I mean, that 382 is also on that line there. Remember, this is the Tau CAS chart, or CAS Tau chart. So you've got neckline of the double bottom, you've got the 200 EMA on the daily, and you've also got the 382 fib level. Definitely some levels to have a look at there. Right, I think that's probably going to be me on this. Yeah, so look, as rageful as ranging may be, or as looking at your portfolio may be on down days, just remember the big picture moment. There's no evidence to suggest we've broken the 4-year cycle. There's no evidence to suggest that the bull market's over. We've only pulled back 17%. I appreciate alts bleed harder than that. They're always going to. But if the 4-year cycle is true, if the 71% of you are true that we're going to see an alt season, they are going to pump hard at some stage. So stay the course. This is the time to do it. By all means, tinker if you need to. Reaffirm what you're in and why you're in it. Absolutely. But just get ready for that rocket ship ride we're all hoping for. I'm going to spend the next couple of weeks maybe talking about, when those cycles may end and sort of indicators. I think we need to just be on top of that in case we see something like 2021 where we get an early break in that. There will be a trading pub on Thursday at 1 p.m. So tune in for that one. If you have any questions between now and then, feel free to message me, DM me, tag me, whatever it is. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy updating your portfolios. I suggest you do it today because it's been a green day generally across the board. And yeah, I'll speak to you all soon. Have a good evening. Cheers now.